On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, USAID, Gaza, Nazi false flag, and the old man serves up the magnum.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Danny and Marky, and this is episode 364 of the John 1911 podcast. Today is Saturday, February the 8th at 11:53 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As usual, I have to timestamp all the podcasts because things can change while we are online, and now that Donald Trump is president, things change about every 2 hours. He's going so fast. If he was going any faster, we'd have to do 2 podcasts a day. Like, it's out. It's like no one can. I mean, Danny, like, do you remember there was a huge plane crash in Washington, D.C. that happened like 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, where's that in the news?
The man made promises. He's not only keeping the promises, he's doing more than what anyone could have possibly anticipated. And the way he is doing it, all within the law, is just absolutely sending the liberals and the Democrats over the cliff.
Yeah, I had heard, I haven't seen this, and I haven't had time to look for it because I've actually been doing a lot of gun stuff over here at the John Knight's Lawn Armory.
And
Surprise,
chopping
surprise.
wood.
Yeah, and there's a rumor, or there's a story, I'm not a rumor, it's easily provable, that when Trump was having his press conference with Bibi, but he announced that the U.S. was going to take over Gaza. Susie Wiles, who is his White House chief of staff, was in the room, and they say you need to zoom in the camera on her face because apparently when he said that, that was the first she heard of it. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. Trump is known for a little impromptu actions. That he is. We got to give him credit. But here's the thing: anyone with a pea brain would know that he is trolling these people, and they take it as signed in blood law. I mean, he trolls the press. He trolls the Democrat. He trolls the mainstream media. He trolls everybody. And I get a kick at how stupid these people are that fall for it.
Well, now hold on. He wasn't trolling.
You don't think that was partially trolling just to throw feelers into the water?
Well, okay, no. See, all right, he wasn't trolling. Like, that wasn't a Twitter post. I mean, he had BB there. He did obviously talked about it, and it's being reported in all the Israeli papers, which I read. And so here's the thing. And the media, he's moving so quickly, the media moved off of it because people tried to say he's betraying MAGA and how do you feel about this and blah, blah, blah. Then they moved on to the next thing, DOGE and USAID, which everyone says wrong. It says wrong. They say it's USAID. You can tell they've never heard of this organization because they don't know how to say it. It's called USAID. Final answer. I don't need to phone a friend. I know who they are. So let's go back to Gaza. So here's the thing. All right. The media never reports the truth about Gaza in reference to the rest of the world. Nobody in the Middle East likes the Palestinians.
No, nobody wants them. Nobody wants to accept them either.
Well, no, but even historically, Israel never wanted Gaza. The Gaza Strip was always the location for the Philistines in the Bible. The Jews never had Gaza. They never wanted Gaza. I mean, you can find someone listening to this podcast is going to be like, there's some crazy douchebag, self-appointed rabbi somewhere who's like, he wants to, make greater Israel from Iran to freaking Spain or some shit. But that isn't real. That's like some dude burning Qurans in like Kentucky. That's not real. The Gaza Strip was never a source of desire for Israel historically, or even, at the time. And what Trump is doing is there's 2 million, they think there's 2 million people in Gaza. Gaza was controlled by Egypt and I think through the 68 war to
Yep.
or the 6 day, that was in
6 Day
60,
War.
yeah, 6 day war, and that was in 67, right?
Yes.
So, and then and then Egypt was like, we don't want it. They're like, we're out of it. And the people that are the Philistines, the Palestinians that are in Gaza, they're the source of all the issues for the Muslim Brotherhood that took over in Egypt. When Nasser fell, and then now General Sisi took back over. You remember the girl who was in Tahrir Square, and she's a little blonde, one of these news anchor girls, and she was, when the government fell, and she was in this big park surrounded by all these men, and it's like, oh, the government fell, it's a new day, whatever. Then they raped her and tore
They
her
raped her,
apart.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that was when the Muslim Brotherhood took over, and then eventually the military had to come back in and take back over the Muslim Brotherhood. Um, and so and nobody wants these people. The argument that Trump is making, and this is just no one wants to admit this. So you know, the UNHCR, United Nations High Commission on Refugees, because the people in Gaza are supposed to be refugees internally, or even they're refugees, but they've been there for 70 years. Um, all the money that you know, all the money that a lot of these international groups give to the Gazans to rebuild. Like, they don't have a functioning water system. They don't have a functioning sewer system because all the pipes that they fucking buy, they use them for rocket bodies, and that's where all those homemade rockets come from. And so Trump's basically like, we're not going to do this again. Trump's like, we're not going to give all these crazy groups money, and they're going to go in there and just give it to crazy people who take it to build weapons. And it's American money in many ways. And he's like, and then he's also like, okay, wait a minute. You know, like, how many refugees from Syria went into Europe? Like, that's been a big problem. Like, for years, refugees have been pouring in from the Syrian civil war into Europe. And now Trump's basically, his idea, we're going to take over Gaza, is him holding up a mirror to the Middle East. Because he's basically like, oh, you got two choices. You can do this or you can do that. And that's the way it's always been. He's like, fuck you. We're going to do something different. And I don't know if he's going to pull it off, but he's going to hold up that mirror to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, possibly Qatar out there, and be like, you need to take some refugees, bitch. And we're going to do things differently. But here's a problem. And they don't report this in the U.S. You're old like me, and you remember some of this. Do you remember when, like, all the crazies were hijacking airplanes
I sure
in the
do.
70s and then in the 80s? Do you remember one of these terrorist groups that was called Black September?
I sure do.
Do you know where that name comes from?
Black September.
Most people don't. Black September might have even been the group that even killed the Israeli hostages and the Israeli athletes in Munich in 72.
Oh, at the Olympics, yeah.
That might have even been Black September as well. But Black September was a terrorist group. Well, where did that name Black September come from? Well, there were a bunch of Palestinians that were in Jordan, and they tried to overthrow the Jordanian government. That king, the current king, Hussein, his father, and they went through and they killed all kinds of these motherfuckers. They killed so many Palestinians that it was Black September, because a lot of these countries around Israel know that you can't control the Palestinians. They're dirt billies. They just, all they're going to do is tear up your country. Like, I'm going to say this: Trump's plan to, like, move refugees out of Gaza, I don't know if he's going to pull any of this off. Other countries may, balk, or maybe he may threaten things. I think it's a source of negotiation, not him trolling. I'm going somewhere with this. But I tell you this, like, the population of Jordan is 70% Palestinian right now. And the Hashemite family that runs Jordan, they don't want to take any more Palestinians because they're afraid it's going to destabilize their country and the country could fall apart. Um, and there's even a historical argument to be made that the what they call it in that part of the country or part of the world, they call it was Transjordan. So it was the area that was carved out. It was what you think of modern day Israel, and then you think of where Jordan is next door, and it's divided by the Jordan River. You know, the Palestinians were supposed to be Jordanians. They were all supposed to go to Palestine, go to Jordan. As a matter of fact, originally, you know where the West Bank is in Israel, the
Yes.
western side of
Yes.
Israel that borders Jordan, where there's a lot of Christian sites, and it comes right up against Jerusalem. Originally, the people that lived there, they had Jordanian fucking citizenship. They were Jordanians, but they were like Jordans were like, yeah, you can take them because they fucking crazy, and we don't want to deal with them. The people in Gaza, they were Egyptian citizens. They're not U.S. or they're not Israeli citizens. They're like this Gaza. The Gaza Strip is really like this bullshit uncommanded territory like Afghanistan. Like the Gaza Strip is really right now the best way you can describe it would be Hamasistan. And I don't know what Trump's going to pull, and he may strong arm people and he may do all kinds of stuff. But part of me, to be honest with you, I'm not going to bullshit you. I mean, I'm like, you could certainly use a big air base and naval base there.
Well,
There's even people making an argument that we ought to pull out all of our we got a big air base in Qatar, and we could pull all of that out. There's all this infrastructure there, and I think there's even like a World Cup thing. I don't know if it's in Qatar or if it's in the UAE, but they built all this shit for the World Cup. But what they're saying is maybe we go into the Gaza Strip, we start cleaning up areas of it, we put in naval facilities, we put in airstrips. We could even make part of it U.S. territory. This is fanciful. We make it U.S. territory. We evacuate all that shit over there in the Persian Gulf, and then that means there's housing, facilities, buildings, water, and you could move a whole bunch of Palestinians over there. And here's the other problem, this idea. A lot of these Palestinians that live in the Gaza Strip can't leave. Even though Israel doesn't control them, but they can't leave because nobody wants them. And Trump is holding up that mirror being like, maybe we should let some of these people out of this fucking place.
well, I'm in semi agreement with you of maybe pulling things out, carving a niche for U.S. air bases. We'll call it Gitmo East,
Gitmo
and
East.
well, why not?
I'd call it Guam. I'd call it Guam. I'd call it Guam. I'd call it, I don't know, Guam East. But
But
Guam,
yeah, but anyway, I think might not ever happen. But if Trump sent those kind of feelers out, it might get these other countries off their asses to start accepting these Palestinians. But here's another thing too: it's beachfront property, which it is,
mhm.
and which means naval. That's one thing. It is also, as we know, the Gaza Strip is also a center point for terrorists. Now,
Yep.
which we all know how many terror activities have started from there. So if you have a huge or threaten a huge American military presence over there, maybe these people will sit up and take a little notice because they can be retaliated against within 2 minutes. So I don't know. Is it a strong arm tactic on Trump's part? Possibly. Is it to scare the shit out of them, Trump's part? You're damn right. But the thing of it is that's why I think he was trolling on part of this. I just do. I'm
Yeah,
sending out feelers.
yeah. It's his point of negotiation. Look, I will say this just to be clear. We're in the fantasy land here, but with Trump, you just never know. I will say this: I would not want to have U.S. facilities in what is currently known as Gaza and have a million or 2 million Palestinians around. I want them gone.
Um, you don't think
You
the
know,
fear you don't think the fear of their annihilation would worry
why?
them?
I mean, here's the thing. The argument for Trump to remove them is they can't live. I mean, like, they've torn the shit out of at least northern Gaza. They've torn
Right.
the shit out of that place. They can't live. They're going to live in tents. Like, there's really, and it's like, the argument for all these people that left Aleppo and all these places in Syria is the same argument why you can, move these people out of Gaza. They can't, it would be really interesting if the media could somehow put microphones in Gazans' faces without a Hamas guy secretly holding a gun to their back and being like, hey, would you like to live in Jordan? Would you like to live in Egypt? Would you like to maybe live in Syria? Would you like to live in Saudi Arabia? If they got money, they can build a whole big city. And, they might be like, yeah, we would love to live in a new place. Like, seriously, like, everybody wants to pretend that everybody in Gaza is some, fire breathing dragon, suicidal fighter. And there's a lot of people that are because they're brainwashed to be like that. But I think, given a choice, it'd be surprising how many people might be like, they're prisoners, but they're prisoners held by Hamas, not by Israel or the U.S. or the West. It's interesting, but
I also think now this is phase two of my wild in the sand thought. Let's just say that Trump keeps speaking of we're going to get a military presence over there or this or that. We all know it's fantasy land, but if we had something right there, you don't think Iran would wake up and take notice?
well, we have a facility right off from Iran.
Right.
As a matter of fact, leaving Qatar and putting the facility in Gaza makes it farther away from Iran.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah,
All right.
Qatar's is a Persian Gulf. It's right off the coast of Iran. But
Beachfront,
the
beachfront property.
yeah, but you can make an argument of um, like, it again, we're in fantasy land, but Puerto Rico's a US territory, Guam is a US territory, Midway's a US territory, you know. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I tell you, the Israelis would like us to be there. Honestly, the Egyptians would like us to be there. Um, I think the new Syrian government might like us to be there, at least for now. I think the Turks would not like us to be there, but they would publicly say they would like us to be there. The Chinese wouldn't like it one fucking bit.
No.
Um,
Well,
um,
and I also know Iraq wouldn't because with that $20 million for the Sesame Street play, our guys would want tickets.
okay, you know what? We got to get off Gaza. So you're bringing up a good point. This USAID thing, holy shit. Holy shit. I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but I heard a rumor. So they're all talking about how Politico was getting there's two levels. You can get Politico subscription, then there's Politico Pro. And so it's like a high-end newsletter, an insider newsletter. And so what the argument for this Politico Pro would be, you know, um, people that work in government want to know what's going to happen before it makes the mainstream news or what high-end people are talking about. So you get up in the morning, 6 o'clock, you read your newsletter, and then some reporter starts calling you at 8, and he's like, what the fuck's going on with the whatever, you can kind of answer the question. And so it's expensive newsletter. I think it's $8,000 a year. And it's not the only newsletter like that in Washington or in those circles. I mean, most famously right now, the new dude that's doing that is um, Mark Halperin's running a newsletter. But I don't think government people buy it. I think it's straight up elected politicians and media people buy that, and I think it's probably $5,000 or $6,000 a year. Um,
Like the Drudge Report.
yeah. I don't know if the Drudge Report has a paid side or not, but I heard a rumor. So Politico is owned by Axel Springer, which is a German media conglomerate. They bought Politico, and maybe it was the parent company of Politico a couple years ago. I think it might have been $1 billion. And it was like, holy shit. Like, if they buy Politico for, like, let's say it's $1 billion, like, how much is John 1911 worth? Um, and now you're starting to wonder, well, a lot of the valuation on a multiple is based off of their money generation. It's not just a regular, magazine. It's this pro thing. And apparently they're getting, is it
8 million.
8 million a year?
Yes,
Well, Trump is shut off all of this.
he sure
And
did.
I heard a rumor yesterday, and I think I kind of confirmed it. At least I've confirmed it's a rumor that the people that work at Politico for the first time since they, you know, have worked there under Axel Springer or even before, that their direct deposit paychecks were delayed by a day or
Really?
two. Yeah, that's a rumor. I can't confirm it
Why?
because I can't get anybody from Politico to talk to me. But the
Eh,
rumor is, and here's the thing: if that's true, that tells me that this idea of the people are like, oh yeah, it's it doesn't mean a whole lot to Politico. It's just it's a thing and it's a bulk service and the government pays for it, but Politico doesn't need it. I'm like, if they can't make fucking payroll, like it's
Yep,
that close. Like we're talking a couple days, and then like boom, you can't make the payroll. That tells me that Politico is completely propped up by government money.
that's right. Totally subsidized. I agree. Yeah, and I sent you the list. Did you get them? And that is only a partial of what I
Oh
sent you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and if you read some of those things, what here's what I
What's the best
feel.
one? What's the best one that you think you've seen so far?
Um, Probably the trying to make mice transsexual.
I hadn't heard that one. Are you serious?
Yes,
Was the balloon one? Was the $50 million for condoms
it's
from
true.
USAID? Well, yeah, that's true. But see, the thing is, that's an example of Trump holding up the mirror. Gaza doesn't need $50 million in condoms. What that is, they fill the condoms up with helium or another
I
gas,
I
and then
sent
they
you
hang
that.
they hang explosives all, and the wind blows down there from
You're right.
from Gaza and Israel, and that's how they drop bombs. But if you were to ship $50 million worth of balloons, it's like, well, what do you need all these balloons for? Well, they're condoms. Like literally, that's U.S. money to pay for the weaponization attacks on Israel. That's one of many examples. And the
Well,
media kind of was like, condoms, haha, that's weird. And everyone kind of
him.
ran off of it. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
I,
Hold
I
on.
I sent you that article on the balloon
Yeah.
bombs. You know,
Yeah.
it's just of you didn't believe it at first, so I sent you the article. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't believe that. I knew that'd be used for bombs. I didn't believe that there was $50 million in condoms.
but here's the thing. And we could say the $50 million for condom, the transsexual mice, the entire list has still yet everything they've uncovered to be published.
Oh, really?
The typical American taxpayer, every one of them is saying, "What the fuck?" Every one of them. All right, if you have a brain. But what I fail to see more than anything, is why are these Democrats going out and defending it? There's got to be something on the back burner there. There's got to be.
Well, for two reasons. Number one, anything Trump does is bad. So if he's for something good, they have to be against it. Number two, let's be real. The Democratic Party is mostly made up of statists, bureaucrats, and, you know, I would call them insider Washington. And these government programs are used as money pumps into Democratic little pet projects. And like one of the things, and like I knew who USAID was, but I'm not going to claim that I knew that much about how it functioned. But it's come out and it's really interesting. So apparently, you'll have um, this is why Rubio's taking over the USAID and trying to bring that shit in house. So there's been complaints for years. So like, just for example, the tout, let's say the like or actually I can connect this to Benghazi. So here's an example. So let's say the ambassador to Egypt is, down there and he's dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood, and now he's dealing with Sisi, who's the army guy. The army really runs Egypt. They're the only respected institution, kind of like Pakistan, just not as bad. And, they're Muslims, there's Coptic Christians, and they're much more cosmopolitan than, say, Pakistan, but they're still a Muslim country and they're still conservatives. So, you would have an ambassador going, and we want to do this, and we respect this, and we respect your sovereignty and your culture, and we're trying to deal with you. And then you would have this USAID people show up, and they would start pumping money into, gay and trans shit in Egypt. And, the ambassador to Egypt would be like, yo, you're making me look bad, dick face, and couldn't stop them because the people that ran USAID act like they're a charity to the world and they're not accountable to anybody. And USAID was never supposed to be that. So you would
No.
have diplomats going into these countries trying to be respectful to their culture, and then USAID would come in and run roughshod and do shit that would directly piss them off. But it's, making the rainbow people happy or whatever bullshit thing they wanted to do. And it was, and the senior diplomatic representative in the United States, who's supposed to be the highest ranking member of the U.S. government in that country, couldn't tell them to do shit. Motherfucker, I'm pretty certain that the ambassador to a country could practically throw the CIA out of a country. They could really wreak havoc on CIA. They could really wreak havoc on DIA. They could really wreak havoc on these agencies coming in because they're the senior people in the country representing the United States. USAID just fucking shows up and does whatever the fuck they want because they've turned themselves. They started off as this do-gooder group as a way to handle the money to put into these countries. They've turned into this. We're a charity, and it's like, we're a charity of the world, fuck you. Like, they want to act like they're these altruistic above politics. It's like, whoa, USAID was not set up for that. And you're not accountable to anybody. And then you look at what they spend their money on. That's how it got out of control.
And here's what
dude,
my
hold
point.
on. I saw a picture last night, the front of the building where United States Agency for International Development, United States, it actually spells it out, USAID in full. There's a guy in a cherry picker knocking the words off the building.
Yeah, they did. I seen that myself, and they were taping over the front plaque on the building with black tape. Yes,
That's awesome.
Well, but here's the thing: these Democrat congressmen and senators, they're coming out trying to defend this stupid ass spending and what they sent all these millions and millions of dollars to. Tell that what I would now. How do these Democrat congressmen or senators go back to their districts, go to a town hall, and justify this when you have the North Carolina flood victims and the California forest fire victims, but yet we could send $50 million for condoms, but everybody in the North Carolina flood only got $750. How could you possibly justify this to any average thinking citizen?
I saw there was a meme. I guess somebody was complaining that worked at USAID. What am I going to do? What about my job? What about my career? How am I going to make it? And somebody said, give them $650. I'm sure they'll be all right.
Really?
And it was like,
really?
Ooh. It was
well,
like, ooh, the internet wins again.
And did you see what happened over at the Department of Education yesterday?
Well, hold on. I don't want to get to that one. So I want to get into this one. Then we'll go to the Department of Education. So something else has come out of USAID and they're not talking about it. And I saw it. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? This is a scandal. So, all right. Most people probably have not really interfaced with these groups, but you've kind of heard of some of them. Like, you've heard of George Soros, right? Everyone like,
yeah.
George Soros pays for this, George Soros pays for that, right? Now, hold on. Maybe you watch PBS or you watch some programs or you consume some stuff, and you'll see something at the end and be like, this was paid for by whatever funds from the Ford Foundation. And then you'll see another one where it's like, blah, 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 blah. This was ever paid for by the Pew Charitable Trust. And then you'll see some blah, 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 something, whatever, blah, 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 the Rockefeller, whatever, something. I can't remember the Rockefeller one. Because it's, these billionaire families, they set up these trusts and these nonprofits, and they've got this money that they invest, and then they get interest, and then they put it towards their causes. And this is something that people can do, and they kind of go on. The Ford thing is whatever. And then you look at USAID. Pew Charitable Trust is getting money from USAID. George Soros got like $230 million. I may have that wrong, but I thought it was like $230 million from USAID.
I seen that.
Pew Charitable Trust is getting shit from USAID. Ford Foundation's getting shit. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait the fucking minute here. You're telling me that we're giving these do-gooder groups that are lefty causes that I thought were set up by lefty billionaires 50, 60, 70 years ago. We're paying for this now? And like, it's the media doesn't even anyone listening to this podcast has mentioned these fucking names.
Nope.
There's like, condoms in Gaza. It's like the real money, the real problem is that. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And here's, and if you don't quite want to understand this, if you're someone alive today and you're probably a conservative and a Republican that watches Fox News or listens to right-wing media, the left harps on the Koch brothers. The right harps on George Soros. Why the fuck is the U.S. government giving George Soros any money? That's why they're all upset. That's why the Democrats are off, because they know that a lot of their groups really are not being paid for by these people. They're getting money pumped.
Right.
It's just like the government gives money to unions, then the unions give money to Democrats, then the Democrats vote for more money for unions. It's the iron triangle of bullshit.
And with this being exposed, think about it. With a lot of these exposures, there goes a lot of the Democrats' campaign contributions.
Well, that's where you get into a lot of this. Well, who's paying for that? How can they afford to pay for this? Who's paying for this stuff?
Yep.
Who's paying for this weird gay ass play? And then some of this false flag stuff you see, like we had one here in Cincinnati, and I've hinted around at it. We had another one where it was some bullshit bookstore in some bullshit part of town, and they had an announcement, a press release. They're going to have, what do they call it? The trans reading hour, transvestite story time, or transvestite reading hour.
You were there. You got a ticket. I know you did.
I got a ticket, and I got a little lipstick on my cheek. And, and then I saw it, and I'm like, what the fuck? Where's this bookstore even at? And then it was like, it went quiet. And a couple of days later, they issued another press release. And that was telling me, everybody was like, nobody gives a fuck. This is made up fake shit. The owner of this store is probably gay. They're trying to get people upset to get media to drive a narrative to create a crisis that isn't real. Okay? Trans people don't want to go to fucking read shit at Story Hour, first of all. That's bullshit. But who pays for this? We had one here yesterday, and we haven't seen Nazis. We haven't seen these riots. We haven't seen anything. Yesterday in Cincinnati, or in a suburb of Cincinnati, all of a sudden, like 5 or 10 dudes in a box truck showed up waving Nazi flags on over a highway overpass. Some of them had ARs. They all had full masks on, and they just showed up. And even if it was on Twitter, and everybody in Cincinnati is like, this is a false flag. They're like, these aren't real Nazis. Like, where the fuck is this coming from? These are leftist, communist, fake bullshit, and the money to pay for this stuff, the money to rent a truck, the money to buy the matching little black outfits and the little bandanas and buy the fucking flags, it's all coming from either the feds, which I can't believe I'm saying that at this point, because I'm not Alex Jones. It's either coming from the feds or it's coming from Pew Charitable Trust, Ford Foundation, some bullshit through USAID, George Soros. This is fake as fuck.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So what happened at the Department of Education? I missed that one.
Okay, the Department of Education had Musk and all his computer wizards go in there yesterday and lock the doors behind them. All right. Now, I don't know if you've done any diving into those 18, 19, 21-year-old kids that Musk has,
I
but
know one of them has a profile on the internet that says he has big balls.
oh, yeah, I
I
was
know.
proud of him. But anyway, did you know most of them have an IQ of around 200? Like two or
Wait a
three.
minute. Okay,
Let me
wait a minute.
finish.
I
Let
don't
me
even
finish.
wait a minute. I don't think you can have an IQ of 200. But go
Well,
ahead.
yes, it's a expanded on my part, but two or three of them go to MIT. I mean, that's the kind of people Musk has around him. Do you think a man of Musk's stature is just going to put a help wanted in the local paper and get somebody to go right from McDonald's to the U.S. government books? So the Democrats were crying, these people aren't vetted, they're this, they're that, they're that. These are the kids are the ones that uncovered all this stuff because they're that smart. So they went to the Department of Ed yesterday, locked the doors behind them, Musk and all of his team. Well, the Democrat Congress and Senate people went over there and tried to get in.
Was
Well,
that
the
the press conference where Maxine Waters was outside?
yes, and the
Oh, I thought that was
security
a press
guard, and the
conference.
security guard, he's got to be man of the year in my book. He looked right at her and told her, "No, you, she lost her shit. We're elected members of Congress," and he said something like, "Okay." That's nice. And it's like she lost her shit. And then she's looking through the window. She goes, "There's people armed with guns in there." And you could almost read his mind like, no shit. You know what I mean? It's like, so it drove them crazy that they could not get in there and disrupt or do a sit in or this or that and stop those people from going through the expenditures. They are losing their minds over what's going to be uncovered. I think when all is said and done, and they do go department by department, this, that, and the other thing, there's going to be some elected people implicated in not too good of stuff.
I heard that Bill Maher came out and even supported getting rid of the Department of Education because he's like, it's not working. When the Department of Education was made, the average test scores in this country are worse. And
Yeah.
again, we're into teachers unions. Where is the who's the woman? What's the woman that runs the teachers union? Randy, is it Weingartner? Is that her name? Where's she at? She's a little commie. Um, and there's going to be big money pumps in the. I don't know what they're doing in the Department of Education, but it seems to me like USAID to me. I don't think that was random. Like that was the first one. Like that wasn't on anybody's radar. But again, even most of the media can't even pronounce it.
Well,
And
somebody had to know
some,
that's where all the phony money was coming
yeah,
from.
somebody has come up with a plan here, and they're like, here's an easy one. And also, here's an argument. Now we're going to have to get into some political powers of the president and Constitution. So USAID is a foreign policy group, United States Agency for International Development.
Right.
Okay, and they're to try to whatever. It's all this idea that it's foreign policy. It's American values or to help people, but it's all foreign policy. The Constitution is very clear. The area of foreign policy solely rests with the President of the United States.
Yes, it
Now,
does.
now the Senate can ratify treaties that the president negotiates, and the Senate confirms and approves of nominees, of senior level people in the executive branch. That's how they exert control. But what they do, that's purely area of the president. The Department of Education, when you're starting getting some of this other stuff, It's like if Congress has by law, because nobody's passed a law that says you need to turn the mice gay. So, but if Congress has by law said we are going to fund the Department of Education, I don't know if the president can just shut that down. That's not a foreign policy thing, and I think if it's by law, I think because Congress does have the power of the purse, but you can make an argument that the power of the purse is the idea to give you money or to take the money away.
Correct. I'm glad you mentioned that because okay, like
I don't think that's
USAI,
clear to me.
okay, USAID, they submit their budget to proposal every year. This is the amount of money we need. I'll use round numbers. Let's say they
No
need.
one, wait. No one submits budgets anymore. We
They
stopped
don't.
doing budgets. So no. We stopped doing budgets under Barack Obama. It used to be that the executive branch would put together a budget and they would get up to Congress and they would vote on it and add to it, whatever. And under Barack Obama, because he doesn't want to be accountable to anything, they started doing continuing resolutions. We haven't had
Okay,
a
you're right.
budget
You're right.
in
You're
this
right.
country in 15 or more years.
I bet you we get one next year
Possibly.
with all this,
Mhm.
stuff
Thank you, Barack
coming.
Obama.
So,
Thank you,
well,
Barack
anyway,
Obama.
anyway, USAID is going to be cut. It's simple. If not completely gone.
Yeah, that's gone.
All right, now Department of Education. When they start uncovering that the Department of Education sent money to this thing that they shouldn't have, or that thing that they shouldn't have, or this thing that they shouldn't have, or that thing that they shouldn't have, whatever, that's going to be cut. This is all coming out, all right? And then you still have, Medicare, welfare, this, that, DOD, the waste that is being uncovered. I think Trump and Musk and everybody that is doing this is trying to just alert the American people. Look where your dollars are going. Now, if a lot of this waste gets cut, slush funds for whatever gets cut, this, that, all the other stuff, pet projects, shouldn't that make our taxes go down or put
It's already what's happened is because what's okay. So yes, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to help you here. You're right, but I'm going to not only the taxes, but so there's the debt, right? And so
right?
there's people smarter than me that apparently been privately whispering that they think that it's possible that up to a quarter of the annual funds the U.S. government spends a year is either stolen or wasted.
Oh,
That's
I
a
can
quarter.
believe that.
That could be that. I mean, we might end up at like you know uh, $750 billion. And so what's happening is, so the U.S., Barack Obama spent a bunch of money. Trump spent money too now because, especially during COVID, he fucking spent money. Then Joe Biden came in and was like, I want to spend a bunch of money too because I want to give money to my people. Like COVID was over. And,
Right.
and Biden's like, he gave a trillion, he did a trillion or 2 trillion for COVID shit. He did a trillion for with his infrastructure, 1 point infrastructure. He did some other thing. It ended up being like $4 trillion. Well, what's happened is the 30-year Treasury note, which is what a lot of borrowing and interest rates are based off of the service to debt, but it downstream effects to the bank and finances and mortgages. The interest rates on those started getting higher because people started realizing that I don't know if America can pay this debt, and I want more money because it's not a sure thing. And so they had the Treasury to be able to get people to buy these 30-year bonds had to start raising the rates because be like, I ain't buying that fucking 1%. 2%,
No.
3%. And so, well, now what's happened, the 30-year projection, that note is starting to drop. Nobody's talking about it. Now, it may go back up, but like short term over like the past X amount of time, it's starting to come down. It's like, whoa, that's
Well,
interesting.
it's
That's a direct connection to inflation.
that is super interesting, and so are a lot of people that play the market putting their money in stock future or gold futures.
Yeah, there's been a lot of because of the tariffs. I sent this to you because you were seeing stuff where people were moving things into gold from because there's issues with the stock market too. We don't need to go into all that
Right.
here. But another thing that's happening is, if there's going to be tariffs and a trade war and whatever around the world, because Trump's going to start picking on people, there's a lot of these countries and entities, like let's say like you're the leader of Rwanda or the leader of Congo or the leader of whatever. Your country's not the most stable country. I don't mean to shit on people, but maybe it is. But there's countries out there that are like, yeah, we could keep the Fort Knox of Rwanda, but maybe it'd be better to have it someplace safer and just use credit because on the international banking systems. So a lot of them put their money in this big gold depository in London. I don't know if it's the Bank of England or whatever, but there's some big bank in London where you go into the basement and there's all this fucking gold, and it's like the gold from this country, the gold from that country. Well, the largest version of this gold kind of storage thing is the New York Federal Reserve. There's people from all over the world and countries that store their gold in the New York Federal Reserve secure facility. And so they have credit, they can do whatever, they can move the gold and they can borrow against it. It's an asset. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Well, there's apparently been such a rash of people wanting to move gold out of London and get it into the United States for two reasons. Gold, for some reason, which makes no sense to me, is an international commodity, trades higher in the U.S. than it does in the rest of the world, which is weird. And then the second thing is they want to have their gold in the U.S. so it's on the right line, on the right side of the line if there's a tariff in place somewhere. And it's so backed up that apparently if you're a foreign entity and you have gold in London and you're like, I want to move my gold to New York, they're like, that's good. We will absolutely do that for you. Right now, the backlog is almost 2 months.
Yep. Well,
it normally takes a week.
We need to do the blotter, Marky.
All right. So it was a quick one. So I got one. This one's out of Argentina. It is give me a second here. I have the video of it. Shocking moment. Elderly man turns tables on gun-toting teenager. A 78-year-old man fatally shot a gun-toting teenager, carjacker, in a shocking face-off caught on video. This teenager runs up to this guy's door with a gun. All of a sudden, you see the guy blast the victim blast the guy through the door or the window. It's like a 357. And then he shoots him down on the ground as he opens the door. And then he closes the door, and he's an old man. Like, he walks like an old man. And he extends his handgun, and this takes a shot, I think, at a dude on a motorcycle, and this huge flames coming out of this gun. And it's like the 50-year-old suspect was seen stepping out of the truck and pointing a gun at the driver, had reportedly been robbed before. So 78-year-old man, they didn't want to die on a romantic aim, fleeing suspect. Homicide prosecutor showed support. Well, I guess the guy died to have a homicide prosecutor down there. So, yeah, the guy's 78 years old, suffers from cardiac issues, and was a victim of a previous robbery in which he was beaten. And we'll have video of this on the internet. And it makes you you want to give the guy honorary American citizenship. Well, this wraps up episode 364 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see the stories or pictures, links, everything we discussed, please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
Bye-bye.